This is WBSM On Demand.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the program. I'm Chris McCarthy, and you are the audience. So, here's how it's going to go. In the first hour, it's kind of open phones. If it's on your mind, I want to hear about it. We've had a lot of local stuff. Of course, the national scene is crazy, right? A lot of great stuff going on in the national scene. How do you feel about the Gaetz nomination dropping out? All of that, right? I think the financial team that Trump is putting together, second to none. In the second hour, we're going to have Leo Choquette, Ward 1 City Councilor. We'll go over city issues with Leo, what he's working on, what he's been doing. I always enjoy Leo. I enjoy any of the councilors who are willing to come over and sit down and take your calls and your questions and your comments. So that'll be 10 o'clock. And then at 11 o'clock, we'll get an update from the chairman of the Trump campaign in Massachusetts, Tom Hodgson. Tom Hodgson is, of course, the chairman of the Trump campaign in Massachusetts. The amount of gains that Donald Trump made in Massachusetts, it's absolutely unbelievable. So we'll talk with Tom about that. It's really interesting stuff. And we'll find out what he thinks so far and what he knows and what he can tell us and what he can hint at but not really disclose to us. So it'll be great in the 11 o'clock hour. You don't want to miss Tom Hodgson. 508-996-0500 so I can get on the program. I was talking yesterday about the recall. So one thing I like about Leo Choquette, now remember, he is the only counselor on that council right now who's yet to get reelected, right? Everybody else on that council has been reelected, some of them for decades, to their credit, right? So they know how deep their support is. But Leo, he's been elected. He had a pretty good win. But he's never been reelected. But he's just doing the job, working at it day after day. He's in touch with you people, holding up in Ward 1, right? Holding monthly meetings, getting other people in. You got the DA in, you got the mayor in, the chief of police. Other counselors are going to those meetings. I think Leo's doing a great job. I think a lot of councils are doing a good job. So I don't know why they're worried about a recall, but Leo's not really worried about it. If you listen to Leo, he actually tried to lower the standards or objected to councils that wanted to raise the standards by which you can get a recall going. So I think Leo's very interesting counsel. I really do. I am happy for Matt Gaetz and his family that they pulled out, right? Matt Gaetz pulled out of becoming Attorney General. Look, he's a very bright guy. He was single for a while when he was a congressman. He's married now. And he was dealing with a very corrupt Justice Department under President Biden. They investigate all kinds of people, right? In fact, they pressed charges where charges didn't belong on their political opponents. Matt Gaetz, the bull in a china shop. So I don't know what happened when he was single and hanging around and out at parties and things like that. I have no idea. You know who else doesn't know? You, really. Nobody knows. We've got a few statements And he didn't want to go through it, and I don't blame him. And you could say, well, if he's innocent, yeah, but do you understand that under this Justice Department, the one that's about to be replaced, process is the punishment. Nobody ever believed they were really going to convict Donald Trump. They just wanted to bankrupt him. They wanted to humiliate him. They wanted to drag out his dirty laundry, some of it invented. The very same people that were up in an uproar about Stormy Daniels, who's a professional prostitute. That's what she does for a living. Look, I don't think Donald Trump, as a man, should have been involved with her, but the very same people that wanted to condemn Donald Trump for allegedly giving hush money to a professional sex worker were out there telling us nothing to see here when Bill Clinton was inserting tobacco products into the interns. Young women, very young women, who had signed up to be federal government interns. Bill Clinton was using them as a humidor. Right? And worse. And these people were going, oh, nothing to see here. Move on, right? MoveOn.org was started so that you American Democrats would forget about Bill Clinton turning a young intern into a humidor. Now you want to pretend like you're upset about Donald Trump giving a go-away money to a professional sex worker? Come on. The Justice Department and these little district attorneys around the country that were meeting with the White House, right? And Mr. Gaetz, Congressman Gaetz, uncovered that. Remember when he grilled Merrick Garland, the Attorney General now? Merrick Garland, who was stopped from becoming a Supreme Court judge because of his ethical dilemmas, right? The fine members of the U.S. Senate said, I don't think so. Cocaine Mitch said, no. We can't have Merrick Garland on the bench. And he was then given the Attorney General's job. Complain about Matt Gaetz. Merrick Garland weaponized the Justice Department. Merrick Garland is the first Attorney General to ever raid a former president's house. Merrick Garland and the Attorney Generals under Obama, they weaponized the Justice Department. They bugged a sitting political candidate, the opposition, Donald Trump. Come on. Now, look, Matt Gaetz, the bright guy, I don't know what he did when he was single. Doesn't sound good, or it sounds great. I don't know. I don't know. Depends who you are. But he's withdrawn, and he's not an issue. But now you Democrats want to abuse a war hero. Many of you never served in the military, and that's okay. You don't have to. But we live in an era of the all-voluntary military. You ought to appreciate people who volunteer for the military. And you ought to appreciate men who get the Bronze Star. To get the Bronze Star, you ought to look it up. You have to have been in combat. You have to be receiving hazardous duty pay. That means you're in a combat zone. And you have to have done something over and above everybody else to earn the Bronze Star. That makes you a war hero. Pete Hesketh has 2 Bronze Stars. 2 Bronze Stars. 2 Bronze Stars. For me, that's the perfect guy to lead the Department of Defense. That's the same job Dick Cheney had, a guy who dodged the draft. Right? Donald Trump overwhelmingly won the election. He's entitled to his appointees. The Senate is entitled to ask important questions. I hope they do. But we in the American public are required to support our war heroes. That's my opinion. Support your war heroes, particularly if you never went anywhere near, as I didn't, a battlefield, right? I was never near a battlefield. Never near a battlefield. But boy, do I respect the men and women who did. Respect them overwhelmingly. And that's why I want a man who's been in combat to be in the chain of command of people who order the next round of men and women into combat, right? I want guys and gals who've been there before they give the order, right? Before they give the order to go to war. I want people who've been there. 508-996-04. Take a break. We'll be right back. The audience, 508-996-0500. I don't know what your weekend plans are, but New England Patriots will be here on Sunday. They going up against the Dolphins. They've headed down to South Florida. Hopefully they'll have a good victory, right? Pre-game begins at 10 a.m. here on WBSM. Pre-game's really good, actually. I listen to that every week. Pre-game's is at 10 a.m. Miami Dolphins against the New England Patriots. Kickoff's at 1 p.m. here on WBSM. We'll have the Patriots all season long here on WBSM. We got a bunch of people on hold. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Good morning, my friend. How we doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Diana DiZoglio there.
Yes.
What have you got to say about it? This is your chance, Mr. Republican. This is your chance to maybe even recruit another person to your party. What say you?
I like her. I think she's doing a good job, but I don't think she'd come up.
Here?
She what?
She got nothing to see here with the referendum on the legislature and auditing the legislature.
Well, the process is what the process is. In other words, I don't think she'd switch parties.
They might kick her out.
What?
They might kick her out.
I doubt it. It'd be a lot to kick a statewide elected official out. The fact of the matter is the legislature is going to do what they do with all ballot questions. They're going to tame it, and they have the legal right to do it.
But this is a referendum by the people, outflooring by the people. You got to be kidding me. You can't tell me that there's some sort of checks and balances thing that she's violating. I can't imagine John Adams at his stand-up desk in Quincy, which is still there from what I understand, yes. Writing the Constitution of the state of Massachusetts and saying that the executive branch doesn't have some review of the legislative branch. They're spending our tax dollars. Where's it going? They don't want to explain. Nothing to see here, folks. Move on.
Hey, look, I had her on to support I voted for it. I signed the paper for it.
Me too.
But I'm just telling you that all ballot questions go back to the legislature for a review.
Well, that doesn't mean to say, though, that it goes back to the review and the legislature doesn't have to, justify why they say that they're going to go against the will of the people.
If someone wants to make it an issue in 2 years, they can, or less than 2 years now.
I don't want to, less than 2 years, absolutely. I you know me, I'm for having the people have their say and having some input into this.
Absolutely.
I've continually seen government trying to say to people, nothing to see here, folks. Just go home. This is a republic. We'll handle it for you. You're too stupid to understand what's going on here. We'll take care of it. To me, I smell a rat someplace there, or maybe a lot of rats.
Oh, I suspect there's a lot of rats, okay? Because the legislature has really never been audited except when they ask for it themselves. And what I am told by insiders, because I got curious about this question since it started. And, sitting around just with a Google machine, right, is you can go way back. And I found a couple of audits of the legislature done by various state auditors.
When was it done?
So,
you remember?
Yeah, I do. It was done in the late 70s and the mid 80s. And one of the names was a local legislator requesting the audit, okay? And I brought that to the attention of a current legislator. And what he said to me is, well, that's because they probably had done something they thought they couldn't do, so they got the auditor to sign off on it, right? In other words, they got the auditor to tell them everything was good.
Oh, inside deal, huh?
Right,
So, yeah.
right. That when you find those audits, you think everything's on the up and up, but that's because it absolutely wasn't on the up and up.
Well, daylight, sunlight, there's no better disinfectant, like that. And they should certainly pursue this. And I think she should win out. And even our what do you call it there? The state, the person who's responsible for seeing that the laws, the Attorney General. Okay, I don't see how she can say that there's nothing to see here, and that she doesn't have the right to overview the state legislature. Take a look at them.
Here's the thing.
All right.
I think the question comes down to not so much auditing the money as auditing the process by which they hire people, by which they make appointments. That is what the legislature does not want to give up control over, and I don't think they should. All legislative bodies create their own rules. I don't think they have any problem with the money. Let her see how the money is spent. I don't think that's the argument. I think the argument is with how the committees are assigned, how the process goes, the voting, all of the rules, all of that stuff. I think that's what she really wants to audit, and I think that's where they're saying you can't go there.
Well, they ought to sit down with her then, right, in a room and talk about it. Not just say, get out of here, nothing to see here. You've got, 72% of the voters were for this?
Yes.
That's a large margin. And again, you're a Republican, you say. If you're looking to build the Republicans...
Well, the town hall says it. You can go down and look.
Well, you voted for Maura Healey, and so did I,
yes.
And I'm not a Republican, but what can I say? And I'm not a Democrat either. But the people have spoken, and I think it's up to the Democratic legislature to come clean.
Well, okay, but in other words,
what's the matter? You don't want to upset anybody?
No, it's not
on.
that. It's that
You're a Republican.
It's that the only force we have is at the ballot box.
Yes,
and
it's spoken.
If this is the issue, if you could keep it alive, if we could keep it alive, make it a real issue in November, in a couple of years, then yes.
No. This should be continually hit on, to make the legislators come clean and show the people what they're doing with their money. They're supposed to be our representatives. Well, I think in that referendum, most of the people in Massachusetts have spoken.
Right, so but I think when you focus on the money, what I'm telling you is I don't think that issue is in dispute. The money is not the issue in dispute. She wants to audit all of their procedures, their policies. Because that's what she does. When she does an audit.
Well, she comes on your show. You get her on. You should ask her that question. What are you looking to do? Are you looking to look at money or procedures? Because she comes on your show.
Yes.
She's the person that you like.
I'll get her in next week. Absolutely.
Beautiful.
I'll get her in next week.
All right, my friend.
All right, my
I'll
friend.
let you go. Have a nice weekend.
You too, my friend. Yeah. So all ballot questions, we vote for them. We vote them down. We vote them up, right? They go back to the legislature. If they pass, they go back to the legislature. That is why in 2016, we passed the legalization of marijuana. Right? That was a very in-depth question, laid everything out. The legislature, I think they had it for about a year before marijuana really was legal. They changed the question. changed a lot of it. And then later on, they grabbed all the money. All the deals that were worked out between local communities and marijuana retailers, in marijuana grow operations. It boggles my mind that any of this is really happening, but it really is happening. Look, I voted for the law because I don't think people should go to jail for marijuana. I don't think you should have to buy it in Buttonwood Park the way I used to have to. But I do think it's a little wild, right? We are in full rebellion against the federal government. It's never changed federal law. It's a real states' rights thing, and maybe that's good. I'm not sure. Again, if you want to smoke marijuana, I have no problem with it. Go ahead, do what you want. Those gummies, things like that. I know people that take them for pain and things like that. And there are responsible retailers and people who grow them, and some of my friends, really, people in that business now. Well, they were my friends in that business beforehand too, but the legislature, the reason a lot of us voted for it was that you're going to get a nice local revenue stream. The legislature saw that vast amount of money, that revenue stream, and they diverted the river to their own coffers. The money that Fairhaven used to get from Basque, that's gone. That's part of the reason we have an annual trouble with our finances here in Fairhaven, because money that we had been used to getting and been counting on, as long as Basque was open, was diverted by State Representative Bill Strauss and all the rest of them to their own coffers. They'll spend it. Town of Fairhaven, get bent. We're not going to let you get that money anymore. We're going to take it. That's what happened. And that's because the legislature has sole control over the laws of the Commonwealth. They supersede our local laws. It's what a lot of you are worried about with zoning. And I will tell you this. I am all for the gun owners in Massachusetts, people who appreciate the Second Amendment, of which I am one, rallying and gathering signatures. But I do think a ballot question would be a problem, because should it pass, the legislature can mess with it more. And that legislature is not respecting of people's Second Amendment rights. They do not respect my right and your right to self-defense and own a firearm. They're backwards. They're socialists. They want to disarm the public. And that's my concern with a ballot question on the Second Amendment here in Massachusetts. As much as I love the energy and love the civic engagement, is that the legislature is just like a Cheshire cat. They're saying, go ahead, pass it. We'll get the last bite at the apple. And there may not be any apple left when we're done. So I do think that's something to be concerned about. Remember, ballot questions are a very important tool. But the last one to see them is the legislature. So the real answer to the problem is to elect more conservatives. Now, we went a little bit of that way this year. We elected some legislators. Kelly Dooner, new state senator. Peter Durant, a couple months ago, brand new state senator. We went down to the wire for some legislative races. Thurber over there in Somerset defeated a left-wing Democrat. But ballot questions aren't the answer. You've got to do the hard work, running for office, running legislative candidates year after year. Year after year. That's the answer. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Not bad. How are you?
You know, the reason why they don't want us to know the goings on there up on Bacon Hill is because the lobbyists running the state. backroom deals.
Yes.
One hand, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. And this is it's binding. Question 1, 72%, like you mentioned, it's binding. And I read it from my booklet because I still have it. The full text of proposed law be enacted by the people and by the authority. A law expressly authorizing the auditor to audit the legislature. In Section 2, it's the first sentence of Section 12 of Chapter 11 of the General Laws, as appearing in the 2022 official edition, is hereby deleted and replaced with the following. Section 12. I'm just going to read just briefly here. The Department of the State Auditor shall audit the accounts, programs, activities, and functions directly related to the aforementioned accounts of all departments, offices, commissions, institutions, and activities of the Commonwealth. There you go. It's right there in black and white.
How many divisions does the auditor have?
Running our state house and just wasting people's money away, and the lobbyists that are running our state. Backroom deals.
Look,
and they don't want us to know what's going on. That's what this is all about.
You've elected a lobbyist in New Bedford.
Because of the House have been indicted.
Maria Giesta's a lobbyist. You've elected a lobbyist in New Bedford to be a city councilor. She's a registered federal lobbyist. When she left the Capitol Hill, she set up an operation, didn't succeed, to be a lobbyist, okay, on health care issues, all kinds of stuff. So you've elected a lobbyist. You've got one at the local level, right in New Bedford. Maria Giesta. She's not asleep at the switch. She's a lobbyist. Why do you think everything gets so screwed up in New Bedford? 508-996-0500. Look, I'm just telling you how it is. I'm not telling you it's right. I'm just telling you that in Massachusetts, the legislature gets the last bite at a ballot question. What you have to do is organize Republicans and run legislative candidates, quality candidates, not just anybody who parachutes in to be a Republican and tries to run. You got to have people who are part of the community, who have the ability to run hard, knock on doors, make a case, deep roots in the community, and want to wear the Republican, the conservative brand to the ballot box. That's what you need. Ballot questions are like opium. Yeah, it's great. I know you voted for it. How many divisions does the auditor have? To quote Stalin about the Pope, right? Okay. What's she going to do about it? She doesn't have the support within the legislature because the Republican Party and the conservative movement hasn't run enough candidates. And when they get good ones, which is rare, they don't win. Now, maybe that's changed. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Morning, Chris.
What's happening?
I agree with everything you say, and I do want to make a statement, and then I have a question for you. You had Chris Markey on, I think, yesterday, and I listened to him, and I just got the sense after listening to an interview with Tulsi Gabbard yesterday, and she described what it was like when she first became a congresswoman. And it was very interesting how her opinion was that once you get elected, and you get elected when you have good intentions at first, and then you become more concerned with your job as opposed to doing the right thing and representing the people that put you in office. That's why I favor term limits.
Okay.
And the question I have, though, is can we recall state reps?
No.
In Massachusetts, there's no process to recall.
No, and it's only a 2-year term. What the best thing to do is just find someone in that district and run them again, whatever the rep is. It's only 2 years. It's just like my argument with the recall in the city councils. No one rep can do much damage, and no one city councilor can do much damage. So you just got to run somebody next time around. Look at the numbers in the district and see if it's favorable to a conservative candidate, and find the right conservative candidate who's going to really do the work. It's a lot of work to run for rep. I've done it.
Yeah, no, it is, and it takes money.
Yeah,
and it takes time. You know, first time people who run first time rarely get elected because they don't have the name recognition.
Right.
And so it takes, a significant commitment. And I guess it's important, but once they get in, they really do lose their way and start to, they're really just concerned about their job or keeping their job within their party, as opposed to representing. And Massachusetts is a great example of that. And instead of following the law and doing what's right to protect the citizens, it was just, I listened to Tulsi Gabbard's interview, and after you were talking to Chris Markey, I didn't get this impression while I was listening individually, but when I sat down and I was done with both of them, I'm like, man, some of these people, they're just really concerned about keeping their job as opposed to, doing what's right, following the law. But thanks for the information. I was wondering if you could recall a state rep, but you're right. If it's just every 2 years, we could vote them out, right?
Yeah, you just find a candidate and run them.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's
All
really
right,
not that big of a deal. And what's going to be interesting is how does the legislatures react to the major change in the voting patterns down here in southeastern Mass, because they recognized Acushnet a while ago and they started balkanizing it, dividing it up. They did it with Freetown a number of years ago too. When I was a selectman out in Freetown, you had 3 different state reps, each representing one single precinct in Freetown, because Freetown had gone Republican. It's all taxpayers out there.
That's exactly what scares me.
Right.
With the results of what Acushnet did in the national election, we're liable to have 3 different reps now. They're going to come in and carve it up so that it doesn't impact their jobs.
Well, here's the thing. When you look around Acushnet, though, it happened in New Bedford. I mean, Republicans are as deep into Ward 2 as they are in Ward 1, as they are in Freetown. I mean, it's amazing how Republican this area went. So I don't know what they're going to do. I really don't.
Yeah.
Because they got some really good software now. It's called Aristotle. There's other brands, too, that can tell you if you move the line this way, you'll switch the vote that way. If you move the line this way, switch the vote that way. It's incredible what they can do now with technology for redistricting.
Unbelievable. And that was another thing that was brought up about another reason for this, not securing the border. What I learned, and I think I believe, I thought it was very intelligent information, was they're bringing in these immigrants to backfill behind the people who are leaving these blue states.
Yes.
So that they don't lose seats in the House.
Yes, the Congress. Yeah, it's all about the population. They're trying to. So in other words, Massachusetts and Rhode Island, the whole Northeast, have lost congressmen over the years and electoral college votes. That's why they're giving them driver's licenses and letting them live here.
That's what we're saying. Sure, absolutely.
Yes. To swell the population and no vote Democrat.
It's corruption. It's unbelievable. It's not what the forefathers had in mind.
No, it's not, my friend. Hey, thanks for the call. Have a great weekend. 508-996-05. Look, Chris Markey, I think, does a good job, okay? He's a reasonable guy. He comes and sits here with us and takes your questions, takes your comments, and takes it back to the legislature. There's only so much one rep can do. I can tell you that he knows the bulk of that gun bill was wrong. The part, he voted for it because he got some stuff that's very impactful in the urban areas, which are laws for shooting into a dwelling, which doesn't really become a big issue in Acushnet and Freetown, but it is an issue in certain parts of New Bedford, right? Shooting into a dwelling. And since Chris, as an experienced legislator, knew the gun bill was going to go through to the governor's desk, he attached some pro-criminal justice legislation to it. So that's how he explained to me why he voted for the gun bill, right? In the past, he had always been favorable to gun rights. I think he still is favorable intellectually to gun rights. But the legislative leaders gave him a win shooting into a dwelling. And folks, that's how legislation works. It's a compromise. It's sausage. That's why I don't want to see it get made, really. 508-996-05. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. So you can get on the program. We're going to have Leo Choquette here in the next hour. Leo, of course, the Ward 1 city councilor. Talk to him about a lot of stuff going on. If you have any questions for Leo or any comments, you can always reach him here. The legislators have to be concerned, or all politicians have to be concerned with the sea trend, the change in the voting patterns down here. Ward 2 voted overwhelmingly Republican. John Deaton, in some precincts, beat Liz Warren in parts of Massachusetts. Now, ultimately, only got 41% of the vote, or 40% of the vote. But John Deaton had a very strong showing. Steve Ouellette, nice guy from Westport, selectman out there. Not a radical lefty. He just won the election in Westport. So it's Westport, part of Ward 1, 2 precincts in Freetown, a couple precincts in Acushnet, and, of course, the town of Westport. But that district overwhelmingly went Republican or conservative, right? It's a conservative district. Had Jesse St. Gelais run as a Republican, I think he would have won. Had Evan Genro run again, he would have won. And you look at other districts around the state. Had Mark Sylvia been anybody else, Mark Sylvia got elected because Mark Sylvia's a nice guy and he was the town moderator and everybody likes Mark. But when he starts voting up there, that's the Fairhaven race, right? I thought he did a nice job with town meeting the other day. I think he always has done a nice job with town meeting. So, but Mark Sylvia, if he goes up there and just goes along to get along, he's gone. He's gone. Because anywhere you look around, there's nowhere to redistrict him that he's not in the middle of Trump country, right? But Mark Sylvia is going to have to tell the party leaders, I can't do it. If I want to keep my job, if you want to keep me here, and quite frankly, they don't really care. They want to keep themselves there, right? But Mark Sylvia is going to have to really vote his district, not vote his left-wing heart. Because he's a liberal, left-winger, I would put him really in the socialist category, primarily. He took a lot of support from the socialists, Maria Giesta, Shane Burgo, Coalition for Social Justice. They were all really behind Mark Sylvia. But Mark Sylvia's got to be careful because he represents a district that only voted for him because of who he is, personally. But if he starts voting the hard left line up there, which I'm sure he will, I hope he doesn't, I'd like him to come into this program and talk with us, hear from you guys. But whatever. He got the job and he's happy with it. 508-996-0500 so you can get on the program. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. But I remember the paper. Nobody gets the paper anymore. We were just talking about the other day. You got to drive around to like 10 stores before you find a newspaper. I'm looking for like a Wall Street Journal or something like that. You got to drive around. It's crazy. It's crazy. But you still get the radio, AM and FM, and digital. We're everywhere now. We are everywhere. And I appreciate all of you who listen every day, and I really do appreciate it. I really do. Follow me on Facebook if you don't already, because I put up some pretty interesting stories. I wouldn't put them up if I didn't find them interesting. Stories on Facebook, because I recognize your time is valuable. My time is valuable. So when I find a story that's interesting, did you know they are still testing the sounds of construction in the ocean? I thought all that stuff was done. It's not. It's not. And they haven't even done all the testing they needed to do on important agriculture, ocean agricultural products like scallops. stuff that really makes or breaks our local economy. Scallops, they're just getting around to another round of testing on lobsters and scallops for what the pile-driving sounds really mean to the population, right? That we require. Most of us will never go to sea to be a scalloper, but whether you realize it or not, if you sell cars or sell insurance or a wise ass on the radio, somewhere, somehow, your paycheck comes out of that ocean, right? Your paycheck, my paycheck, comes out of that ocean. And apparently, I kind of thought all the tests were done, but they aren't. And there's an article up on my my Facebook page. I got it from John Harron, who's a scallop guy from New